Okay, what's up, everybody? This is Mama Kali and Daddy Shiva. You can't see him, he's behind the camera.
One time for my niggas, two times for my nagas.
And this is Mastering the Yoni, a lecture on the biology and metaphysics of the Yoni. So, we are going to dive into what is the Yoni, Yoni wisdom, womb magic, all of that.
Alright, so I want you to really take your time with this because there's a lot of heavy information that you're bringing forward with this particular message and PowerPoint that you have here. So of course this is not just for the ladies, it's also for the men too.
Yes.
So that we both can understand the power of the womb and the power of the divine feminine and just the sacredness of this particular aspect of the human anatomy and also the metaphysical,
and its correlation to the
you
bigger
see what I'm
picture.
saying? Right.
Exactly. And like you said, with the males, you understand the yin, you can better understand
the yang, right. So I definitely want you to take your time and build on this. So take it away.
Okay, so we are going to start with what is the yoni. Yoni is Sanskrit for source, womb, or origin. The yoni is not the equivalent to the vagina. So you have the yoni, then you have the vagina. Vaginas are the microphysical representation for the macrocosmic womb.
So right? They're analogous, but not exactly the same.
Exactly.
Right.
They work together, they work through one another, but they are not the same. One's physical, one's cosmic. All right? So let's start with the three major components of the womb. We have the external genitalia, which is the mons pubis, labia minora and majora, hymen, clitoris, vestibule, and urethra, all the outside parts. You have the vaginal canal, which is the erectile tissue connecting the external genitalia to the cervix and the uterus. Then you have the uterus, which is the pear-shaped organ inside that houses the embryo and the fetus during pregnancy. All right? So let's go into the development of genitalia in general. We start off in an androgynous state because we house both the Wolffian ducts, which are vital for male development, and the Mullerian ducts, which are vital to female development. Now, this androgynous state occurs within the first 4 to 6 weeks. You have no gender. Female is considered the fundamental or base gender due to the lack of or unnecessary chemical signals necessary for fetal development, as opposed to the male gender developing from the Y chromosome igniting the necessary secretion of the anti-Mullerian hormone.
So basically what you're saying is the fact that in order to actually develop into a boy child and have male genitalia actually takes extra steps in the fetal development process, or more steps in the fetal development process than it would for the female genitalia to develop.
Exactly.
All right.
So in these extra steps, we would say comes from the Y chromosome.
Right.
So it's not just the Y chromosome alone that makes you a male.
Right.
It's what the Y chromosome secretes, the anti-Mullerian hormone. So it suppresses the female hormone. There's extra steps necessary. So that's why sometimes we hear we all started as a female. When it's not, we started off as androgynous, it's just female is the fundamental because
right, it is that baseline. A lot of the ancestral cultures talk about that as well. All right.
Exactly. So with the XY, there's also cases called the Swyer syndrome, which I like to call the XY female, because this is a prime example where you have the X and the Y chromosome, but you are a female. Right. You menstruate, you have the female qualities, but you have a Y chromosome. It's just that Y chromosome didn't excrete enough of the anti-Mullerian hormone
to actually for you to shut down the development of the. All right.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, speaking of the menstruation cycle, I want to talk now about how the uterus works in menstruation.
All right.
So the 28-day menstrual cycle has 4 major phases that correspond to the 4 major phases of the moon that we're going to talk about later. You have menstruation, you have the follicular phase, you have ovulation, and you have the luteal phase. Okay? Menstruation is the death, the blood, when you bleed, when women bleed. The follicular phase is more so mental. It's when the pituitary gland releases a hormone called the follicle stimulating hormone. And this is the hormone that helps the undeveloped egg. It gets it prepped and ready for ovulation. So then you have ovulation, the third stage. And that's when the egg is released from the ovaries into the fallopian tubes. And then you have the luteal phase, which is the calming down phase, I like to call it. It's your last chance to get pregnant. So this is when estrogen is being produced to thicken the walls. This is where all the extra blood is coming from.
Right.
So it's the calming down phase.
So the menstruation will be kind of like that death phase, I guess you could say. The ovulation will kind of be like the peak of life I on a certain level, kind of moving into that phase.
Well,
and then the luteals are kind of like that winding down
Yeah, you
aspect.
could say it's the
Alright.
peak. I like to say it's like the arrival, like the here I am. This is the chance for you're making your journey.
All right.
So
Okay.
it's like I consider the menstruation phase and the ovulation phase to both be portals because motion is key here.
All right.
With menstruation, it's the movement of the dead egg.
Right.
So,
out of the
out. And with ovulation, it's the motion of life.
Right.
So
from the
it has a
ovaries
potential.
into the uterus.
So you're working
okay.
towards life with ovulation. But it's still that motion. So I consider those two portals.
All right. Facts.
Yeah. So all of this is happening in the uterus, which is also considered the yin realm on a more metaphysical aspect.
Right.
The darkness. You can't see into the womb.
So, all right. Something I've spoken on a lot. All right.
Yeah. So the womb is dark. The uterus is dark from the outside world.
Right.
So what is yin? So in ancient Chinese philosophy, yin is the passive female principle of the universe associated with earth, dark, and cold. So earth, Mother Earth, the darkness.
Mother Nature, right?
Mother Nature, the darkness, the cold. Well, the womb is dark.
Right. More of the lunar qualities.
Yes, absolute lunar
Right.
qualities. And it also, yin energy is contained with the fluid substance of the body, just like the moon controls the oceans and the waves and the currents, and the fluids in our bodies, that is all yin realm. The fluids carry nutrients and messages around the whole body. So in the womb, that's exactly what's happening. You're sending, when it comes to this menstruation cycle, you're sending messages, you're sending nutrients to nurture this egg that may one day become a human.
Right.
So all of this is yin. And yin, I want to talk about yin in comparison to yang. You have yin and yang, but together you have taijitsu, and that is the entire symbol. That's the darkness and the light. And I would honestly prefer that we all address it more as taijitsu instead of yin and yang. Because when we address it as yin and yang, we are separating the darkness and the light.
Right. We're addressing them as the components, not the whole.
Exactly. So I would like, to just all of us address it more as taijitsu. But where yin is darkness, yang is light.
Right.
Yin is the moon, yang is the sun. Yin is the feminine, yang is the masculine. The yin produces form, yang produces energy. Yin grows, yang generates. Yin is the body, yang is the head. So there's a whole chart that lists a ton of qualities talking about yin and yang. But essentially, there's the dark, there's the yin realm, then there's the light realm, there's the yang.
I think another important aspect to note is that the yin is more the internal realm. You see what I'm saying? And the yang is more the external realm.
Yes, yin is internal, and from the internal comes the external. So if we go back to the whole menstruation cycle, all of that is to birth life with the hopes of having the seed fertilized. So it all starts in the darkness. We all started in the womb in the darkness, and then we were pushed into the manifested world, the light,
right.
The yang. So all things physical, all things the sun touches is yang.
Right.
Sun doesn't touch the womb.
So therefore it's yin.
It's the yin.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Sun doesn't touch the fluids on the inside. That's
Right.
the yin.
It's the yin.
Sun touches the outside, and the sun touches the external genitalia, but that's a the outside, and then you go through the portal, the vagina,
Into the yin. So
into the
on
yin.
that regard, the vaginal canal would be sort of similar to this Stargate concept we hear a lot about in
Yes.
science fiction.
And
All right.
exactly, that's exactly what it would be. And the outside being a sort of veil
Ah, okay.
that leads you through the portal into the womb, into the darkness, into the yin. Deeper, not the womb, but the deeper aspects of the womb.
All right, got it.
So, with that being understood, I want to now talk about the 4 major phases of the moon and how they directly correlate to the 4 phases of menstruation.
All right.
So earlier we started off with it was menstruation, it was the follicular, then it was ovulation, and then it was luteal phase. Again, we started with the dark phase, the death.
Right.
So again, we're going to start with the new moon.
Right.
Then you have first quarter, you have the full moon, and then you have the last quarter. So the new moon is the dark moon. It's when the moon is black. That is death. That is darkness. That is digging within. That is literally the gateway to the darkness. All right. So I associate that. Well, it is associated with menstruation because it's the dark phase of the entire cycle. If you look at the moon cycle, the new moon is the dark moon. Look at the menstruation cycle. The first phase, the menstruation, is the darkness, the death.
Right, the release of the old life, so that way the new life can begin to start or rise into the new life, I guess you should say.
Yes,
right.
Yes. So then you have first quarter, which I contribute to follicular. The first quarter is when you half the moon is lit. You can see half of the moon because of the sun. Half of the moon is dark, but it's moving into the light. So it's half and half, but it's progressing into the fullness, to the full manifestation that we can see of the moon, the full brightness. So the same thing that's happening with the follicular phase, the pituitary gland is releasing and nurturing the egg to get it ready for ovulation. So this first quarter moon is getting the moon ready for the full moon, which third phase, full moon, ovulation. The full moon it's bright.
Right.
The sun is hitting all of it. You see it in its entirety, and it's like, here I am, just like the egg, just like
right. It's fully manifested, fully appeared. Right.
The egg is fully matured, just like the full moon. So that's where that goes. And then the last quarter it's again half light, half dark, but now it's creeping more so into the darkness.
Right. So this is the dying out phase,
exactly.
The waning phase.
The luteal phase, where it's like there's still a chance for you to get pregnant in the luteal phase, but it's really winding down now.
All right.
It's getting ready to release. So the same with this third quarter moon.
All right.
It's it's still some light on it, but it's winding down.
All right. Bet.
All right. I want to go back and touch on the new moon and the full moon being portals, and in relation to yin yang in taijitsu. So if we look at the taijitsu, we see half white with a little bit of darkness, a little black circle, a little black moon, a new moon, and then we have the full darkness, and then the little white circle, which looks like, in my opinion, looks like a full moon.
Right.
If we were to draw it out. Both of those are portals into one another. If you know anything about Kabbalah, you know that Kabbalah, or the tree of life, represents the manifested, and then you have the Kalipoth, which is found through Da'at. Da'at is the unseen Sephirat on the tree of life. It is dark. So to go through that portal, you go to the entire dark side. So I guess to kind of put this in retrospect, imagine you being in the yang realm and you looking up and seeing the new moon and being able to go through the new moon as a portal
into the yin realm,
into the darkness,
right? And
into
then
the
when I'm in
Kalipoth.
okay, so when I'm in the Kalipoth, I now have to look at
You
the
look
full
at-
moon
exactly.
in order to get back into the
Exactly.
yang realm. All right.
So when if it's opposite, imagine yourself sitting in the yin realm and you're looking up and you see a full moon. That's the white. So that's you coming from the Kalipoth into Kabbalah, out of the darkness into the light. So they are definitely portals, and like we said before, with ovulation, it's motion. It's a gateway. It's moving from the ovaries. It's moving from the ovaries to the fallopian tubes. It's the portal.
Right.
Same thing with menstruation. It's moving the depth, moving into that dark phase.
Right. This actually reminds me of, in movies and TV and all of that, where when a person's dying, they say they see this light. You see what I'm saying? And everything's starting to get dark around them, but they see this light, and then they tell them, go into the light, go into the light. You see, so that would be kind of like the yin realm, and then the entrance into the yang realm, which would be, I guess you could say, an aspect of reincarnation and different things.
Yeah, I've heard that before too. It's like you see the light. If you go towards it, it's the light of the doctor's office. It's like you being born again.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. No, I definitely understand where you're coming from with that, for sure.
Another thing I wanted to mention about the Kabbalah, as I'm looking at the diagram, the At, again, is the unseen. It's the darkness. But then you have Yesod, which is the moon. And again, once you start studying more about the Kabbalah, you know that the At correlates to Pluto, which we know is death. If you know a little bit about astrology, Pluto is associated with death. Again, you go through death, you get to the Kalipoth, which is, the At is like a portal. I consider Da'at as the womb, and we're going to touch on it a little bit in this Bible verse in a second when we're talking about black holes. But you can kind of you can see the yin and yang. So now we're going to go into black holes. What are black holes? If we look to the Newton theory, it defines black holes as regions in space where the gravity is stronger than any particle's ability to escape. The boundary of this no escape zone is called the event horizon, since the inside events cannot be seen from outside observers. So like we were saying about the womb, we can't see what's going on in there.
It's
no light touches it.
It's a process of darkness, right?
Exactly. And in relation to everything we just touched on, further explains why it's a black hole. It's a darkness. And there's also a theory that on the other side of a black hole
is a white hole.
So that's yin yang. Those are the portals aspect. Black hole sucks you in. It's a portal. Vaginas suck you in.
Right.
They're portals. And if you go to the Old Testaments, Job 3, he curses his birth. More specifically, the part that stands out to me is Job 3, verse 8. Let those curse it who curse this day, who are ready to rouse up Leviathan. Main thing I want to point out is Leviathan. She is a deep sea monster who is found in the Kalipoth. Let the stars of its dawn be dark. Let it hope for light but have none. Again, that's the black hole that describes a black hole. Let there be light, but stars can't shine light upon it. Same with the womb. All right, so the womb, the throat, and the third eye. So with this, I want to speak on more of the extension of the womb in a more metaphysical aspect, because you have the womb in your biological aspect, but your throat and your third eye also play a part in the womb. As we talked about in the follicular phase, your pituitary gland is a part of your menstrual cycle. Your third eye is producing those hormones to get the egg ready. So the womb, in reference to the chakras, correlate directly to the sacral chakra and is the reflection of the third eye chakra. So if you were to fold it in half there, they reflect one another.
Across the plane of the heart axis.
Yes, with the heart being the center.
Right.
So if you were to fold it at the heart,
you would see the correlation between the third eye and the sacral chakra. All right.
Yes. But like I said, even on a biological level.
Right. They correspond. All right.
So cervix, which is a part of the vaginal canal, part of the portal. The etymology of cervix is actually Latin for neck. And the tissue inside of your mouth, the buccal mucus, is actually the same tissue that's inside of your vaginal walls. So a lot of times when women have throat issues on a biological and an emotional level, you're going to have issues down there as well.
Oh, because that's that same creative
What-
expression. All right, I can see that.
Exactly. And to go a little deeper, one, they're both gateways. Your
Mhm.
throat and your vaginal canal are both gateways.
Mhm.
They both respond, they're both creative forces, like you said, and they both create the same way. They both have rhythmic acts of creation. So when we sing, our vocal cords vibrate.
Right.
When we orgasm, our cervix vibrates.
Yes, right.
When we give childbirth, we don't vibrate, but it's like a rhythmic, muscular pulses.
Matter of fact, they even tell you to
Exactly, the breathing techniques.
the breathing technique. So
Because-
that shows that connection between the throat and like the lungs and the pushing of. All right, I can
Exactly.
definitely see where you're coming from
And
with that.
with the throat and the creative aspect, you speak things into existence.
Mm.
There's many mythologies where the gods speak into
Into
existence.
existence.
What is it, the nomos?
Yes, the nomos directly. They speak. Matter of fact, the process is almost described as them weaving reality through their teeth.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then we have Mut, the mother goddess, who is considered to be the great androgynous creative power who conceived and birthed everything. Mut is identical with Mut, the mouth or uterus.
Mm. So
So-
even the ancient Egyptians knew this
Every-
sacred connection between the mouth and the throat region of
Mhm.
the body and the.
And the uterus,
All right.
all being creative. So going back to the creative, how we create those rhythmic aspects,
Mhm.
the reason from a biological standpoint is the vagus nerve. So the physical thread between the vagina and the throat is the vagus nerve, which is the largest nerve in the body, connecting the brain stem to the sacral nervous plexus. So it's a giant nerve in our body that goes from here all the way down to our genitalia.
Oh.
Right? The sacral nervous plexus is the nerve plexus which provides motor and sensory nerves for the posterior thigh, most of the lower leg and foot, and parts of the pelvis. So the main thing I want you to take from that is motor and sensory nerves, so how they move.
Mhm.
That's why our throat and our vaginas move the same, especially with acts of creation, because this nerve is signaling it to do that.
And you also brought up the sensory aspect, and if you, they kind of feel
They feel
similar,
the same. That's why I said if a woman is having issues with her throat,
right?
she's going to have issues
down there.
down there.
Factual.
Any
factual.
woman who has been sexually abused usually has vocal issues, has issues speaking on deep emotions. She has issues speaking on anything associated with the yin realm,
Right.
because all that has been.
Or this necessity to be over expressive.
Or it's the exact opposite.
Right.
But either way, it's a reaction to the trauma. So it's like all or nothing. But you'll see that it's an issue. It's not balanced.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's important when we're learning womb magic, it's important to incorporate these two. That's why I said on a larger scale, your throat and your third eye are also aspects of your metaphysical womb. And honestly, on a biological level too, because like I said, the pituitary gland is a part of the second phase of menstruation.
Mm.
We just learned that the vagus nerve connects them.
Connects the whole thing.
So,
right.
It's more than a metaphysical aspect. They are
Right.
definitely
There's
all
actually
connected.
physical correspondences to, you know what I'm saying, a lot of the more mythological aspects that our ancestors were talking about, which would prove that they were fully aware of these things on a
Mhm.
physical level.
Exactly. Right. So now I want to go into historic Yoni ideology.
All right.
I want to touch on the mandorla, the hor, and the dakini.
Mm.
So let's start with the mandorla. The mandorla is the full body halo in religious art. Almond-shaped aureola of light surrounding the entire figure of a holy person. So if we look at pictures of Jesus, later pictures of Jesus and Mary, there's a full almond shape around them.
Mm.
That is the mandorla or aureola, which sounds a lot like
Areola.
areola, right?
Which is the halo surrounding the nipple. All
Yep.
right, I see that.
Right.
That's facts.
So, aureola is a circle of light or brightness surrounding something, especially as depicted in art around the head or body of a person represented as holy. Another term for corona and another term for areola. So, areola and aureola are actually synonyms.
That's
You can
actually
use them
interesting
interchange.
because the word corona deals directly with the crown or the head,
Around the sun.
where the
So
right.
when in astronomy, actually, it's funny you said that, and it's funny that I said sun too, because in astronomy it says the rarefied gaseous envelope of the sun and other stars. So it's basically the diffraction of water droplets around the sun creates that halo E effect. Same thing around the moon. But if you go back to the sun, like you said, the sun, Jesus Christ, the sun. In ancient art, the dead gets the corona. They get the halo around the head, the crown of thorns. Once you have ascended, that's when you get
the mandorla, right? The full body light,
Exactly.
all right, or the full embodiment of the light, all right.
Exactly. So areola, females and males have areola. So essentially, in my opinion, when you are showing your areola, you're crowning someone. You're giving them the crown. So that all of this goes into, this is just a gateway into the whore and the dakini, because they understood this.
Right.
It's a miseducation on dakinis and whores. They're not just frivolous. They're very sacred, but these are the components that make them sacred.
Right.
All right. So the mandorla is the Vesca Pisces, from which light is birthed, the womb. So the mandorla is placed around a living saint, one who has ascended. The nimbus, the head halo, that's the thorn of crowns, the corona that we were speaking on. As far as the halo, the mandorla is a gateway. It's a representation of the vagina. It's a representation of the ascended master, one who has gone through the portal. Again, the Vesca Pisces is from which light is birthed. If you know a little bit about sacred geometry, you know how this was created, but we're going to break it down right now.
Oh, all right.
Because I feel like it's important to know, because then you better understand the womb.
Right.
So you have I'm going to draw it. This is what I wanted to draw so that we can better, I have diagrams, but it's like to see it in motion is another thing. So you have the observer, God, always comes first, followed by the observed, which is creation. So you have this. This is the primordial darkness. This is what I like to compare to your subconscious mind, the darkness. From this grows out the conscious mind, which looks, in my opinion, like an areola.
Just
but
like that, yeah.
Again, if you know anything about astrology, you know that this is also the sign of the sun, the conscious mind.
The black dot, also another sign of the pineal gland, third eye.
Yes,
region.
the eternal. Now, the reason I said I associate it with the subconscious mind and not the unconscious mind, I associate the movement. So in order for us to get the Vesca Pisces, your consciousness moves to the edge of its known reality. And from here, it expands the same way it did at first. All right? And this is the observed. So we have the observer, and then we have the observed. And that's why here you have the Vesca Pisces, or the fish, the Christian fish.
Color in that center part, so they can really, you know what I'm saying, see it. That would be, all right, so the two eyes that come together and form a third.
Yep.
All right.
All right. So the two O's in the Vesca Pisces are the overlapping initials, standing for both the observer and the observed. Time as a manifestation, light, therefore always goes forward in this sequence of oneness. It moves forward. If it was to go backwards, that is involution. That's death. Evolution is the creation. So this point again, it moves down here, and then it creates another circle, and then you eventually create the flower of life.
Right.
You keep moving.
Right. You keep moving in circles.
That's why time always goes forward. Evolution, the creation, the expansion of the universe.
Right, because the reversal of that would be the return back to source, which is ultimately that death aspect.
Going back into the darkness.
Right, okay.
But that's involution, that's folding in. I think you once said the brain folds in.
Yeah, the brain, there's a lot of enfolding in order to get Yeah, definitely. I see exactly where you're
Exactly. So
going with that.
am I explaining that well?
No,
Because
no,
I
you're
know
doing
for
good.
someone who doesn't know sacred geometry, that could be that in its own. But that Vesca Pisces, where light is created, is the halo.
Right.
Right. So I think it's safe to move on to the whore.
The sacred whore.
The
All right,
sacred
let's go.
whore. Okay. So the etymology of whore is in the Semitic languages of the Middle East. Semitic is basically Hebrew, Arabic, and Aramaic, yeah. Is hor, Hor, meaning cave or womb. So the hor is the cave or the womb. In Hebrew, hora, Horaa, meant instruction, and the word hor, Hor, meant light. So the instructions to make light, the womb.
How to bring
womb.
light out of the cave. Oh,
Exactly.
all right.
But the womb already has all the instructions. As we examined a couple minutes ago, we just went through all the instructions to make light. All the menstruation, all of that, the Vesca Pisces, all of that. Horasis was the ancient Greek word for womb enlightenment. So basically coming into this understanding, knowing how to do this is what whores have mastered. The main thing,
You know what that sounds like? Horus, the son of Isis.
The son of Isis,
son
the
of
light
the
that
great-
was birthed from the darkness.
The son of the great mother. I
The
feel that.
sun.
That's crazy.
And in the Bible, Horasis was used to describe an oracular ecstatic vision. So oracles who have visions. Oracles are the whores who have visions.
The third eye gives you the visions.
But that third eye, again, I can't stress it enough, is
It's
a part of your menstruation. A lot of us forget that. It is a part of your womb. It plays a pivotal role in creating life.
Fact.
Because if the pituitary gland didn't excrete those hormones, the egg wouldn't have matured. So the main thing you need to know about Mary Magdalene, the most famous whore, is that you need to look at her as a principle and not a historic figure.
Right.
So the principle of Mary Magdalene is whore, which is the abundant creative essence, not the person. So that segues into Dakinis, because Mary Magdalene is a sort of Dakini, and Dakini. Well, let's start with what Dakini is. All right, Dakini is Sanskrit for sky dancer. She who has mastered the whore. Again, you can't master a person, so whore is a principle.
Right.
The whore essence and acts as a divine messenger during sacred tantric rituals. She's the connecting force. She's the channel. She communicates because of her womb. Because her womb is, again, the micro representation of the macro. So she is the perfect channel to talk to the cosmos.
Right.
All right. Prominent in Hinduism and Buddhism between 800 and 1300 AD. So there are 64 Dakinis. The 64 can be broken down, or is broken down, to the 8 great mothers, and then those 8 great mothers have 8 attendants. So that's how you get to the number 64.
8 by 8, all right.
8 by 8. And again, these women are oracles. They're there as for divine transmissions. They're there during puja ceremonies, which happen in the temple. These women are very sacred, and they were revered and feared.
Right.
Dakinis are scary, mainly because of this Shinda ceremony, which is where they would take a dead body into the temple and behead it, because it was the ultimate symbol of detachment from earthly desires. So they strip away all humanity, all of what we would associate with the vagina, and they worked purely with Yoni energy. And there was also puja ceremonies, which is puja is a chanting or prayer based ritual, but the tantric puja refers to the lingam puja, is to help the male devotee realize his fire consciousness. So in these rituals, the man would lay, and all 64 dakinis, all 64 attendants, would come and pour milk and pour water on the lingam as a sense of cooling the lingam. But the lingam is the pillar of fire.
The divine masculine essence of Shiva, right?
The light.
Right. That's birth from Set.
That's birth.
Right.
And even if you look at the symbology of how they do it, it's he steps into their temple. It's just him, surrounded by them. So it's him in the darkness.
Right,
And
surrounded by that Immensian energy, right?
this dark energy that is feared on every level. I mean, Shava Shidan, I mean, they're cutting the heads off of women. I mean, off of these dead bodies. So these women are feared. They aren't whores in the way that
we define
whore. Yeah.
And one part that I kind of caught on to, just as you were saying, it was the fact that these whores were also the oracles, you see what I'm saying? So with the essence of mud being related to the mouth and the uterus, the vagina is almost like the mouth of God. You see what I'm saying? In the physical realm.
Yeah, in the physical realm, yes.
Right.
Yes. And going back to the dakinis and the aureolas, dakinis are always seen topless. They're always seen with their areolas out, because when they're in this ritual and they're with the sacred man, they are crowning him.
Right.
So they're not just crowning everyone.
All right, and that's a very interesting point to bring up, because the term Shiva isn't a name, it's a title.
It's a title.
And it means the auspicious one, so that one divine masculine essence that all 64 dakinis consecrate themselves around. You see what I'm saying? If we're to look at the yin aspect of the Taijitu, you see what I'm saying, that would be that single point of light that lives within the darkness. You see what I'm saying? I definitely feel where you're coming from.
Even when, if we look at the concept of infinity,
right,
we can always zoom in, we can always zoom out.
Right.
So the further in we zoom, if we were to zoom in to this dot, we would see the flower of life.
Right.
And
it would become its own thing. Right.
Exactly. Like fractals.
Fractals. Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. Fractal mathematics is very important for understanding a lot of these things, because that's ultimately how your body is created, through fractal mathematics.
Exactly, and that's infinity. That's the loop. That's why with when we were talking about menstruation, it doesn't matter where you start, because it's a circle.
Right.
Where's the start point of a circle? There's no.
Exactly.
Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Arbitrary.
Exactly, it's arbitrary. So I think it's safe to move into Yoni magic now.
Go ahead.
All right. So what is Yoni magic? Hopefully by now you have a better understanding of what Yoni is, how it works. Now it's time to make it practical. So Yoni magic is the art of understanding and mastering the creative primordial yin force. It's when you're channeling the as above cosmic womb through the so below representation known as vagina. So that's the correlation. That's what Yoni magic is. Let's get into common rituals to help you work with the Yoni and the vagina to get them in sync. So the most popular one that we all know of is Yoni steams. Yoni steams are when you boil herbs to extract medicinal qualities that are absorbed through steaming the vagina. So basically whatever, it's a healing. My personal experience, if you want to heal an aspect of your yoni, you use salt, because salt is the ultimate healing.
Right.
It's the ultimate healing tool. When you're doing yoni steam, you get whatever herbs you want. You get lavender, you get mint, you get rose petals, whatever herbs you want, whatever crystals. I like to put crystals in my steam, in my pots, and boil it, because then I later insert the crystals as yoni eggs. When you're doing yoni steams, always boil at a low heat to prevent burning the herbs. You add crystals for an extra boost. I wrap and tie my herbs in a small coffee filter, because it makes it easy for cleanup. You don't have to. Then you have yoni eggs, which are small to medium egg-shaped crystals to insert into your vagina. Some of them have little strings attached to them. Most of them don't. That's why I said I sometimes just use my regular crystals, my regular tumbled crystals. Don't use raw crystals. You use to absorb the qualities and benefits of your yoni. So if you amethyst, which helps your third eye, which is going to be great for your yoni, because ultimately the more you work with the womb as its entirety, as in the third eye, the throat, and the sacral, they're going to merge. They're going to collapse into one. So your womb, your vagina is going to grow an eye of its own. You're going to see, that's how the oracles see.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they have visions. They channel it through their vagina. So amethyst is a great one for that. Next, I want to talk about blood magic as a ritual and moon magic. I believe they work perfectly hand in hand. Blood magic is using the life-giving blood to create and give life to your heart's desires. It's the sacred menses. And this is a tradition that dates back to...
The ancient Egyptians,
they did it too. I know the ancient Hopis did it.
Right. Like the
Native
whole
American
mythology
narrative.
of Sekhmet is built around menstrual magic pretty
yes,
much.
You're right, Sekhmet. But it's basically this: when you are menstruating, even though your egg doesn't get fertilized, if your egg doesn't get fertilized, energetically, it's still
that
going to
same
be fertilized.
Life-giving
because
essence.
it's looking for something. And it's going to pull whatever energy you give to it.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to use this, and if you're not going to have a baby, you want to give birth to something
else. Something spiritual.
You want to consciously do
Right.
it, because it's happening unconsciously. Every time you have menstrual cramps, every time we have menstrual cramps, and we curse them the same way Job cursed his mother, bad things happen. The cramps get worse. Chaos goes around. Our hormones go crazy. We get mad for no reason, because we're still birthing something.
Right.
We're birthing an energetic baby. And that's when that's when it starts getting into the tantric techniques, because seeing is believing. But when you're bleeding and menstruating, you want to use this blood to give birth to your heart's desires. You want to use this blood to manifest your etheric baby. And you can use a diva cup. You can free flow. You can free flow like in a bathtub or wherever. You can finger paint. I say finger paint because I'll take the blood and I'll paint it on sigils. Super potent. And with the moon magic, the moon is more so like a calendar. Using lunar cycles as a magical calendar to better synchronize your physical with the metaphysical. So again, going back to the 4 major moon phases, even if your body isn't physically synced up with it, you know that the new moon is similar to death and that death phase and the going within.
Right.
And the full moon is the going without.
Right.
I mean, going external.
Right.
So you want to, when you're looking at the moon in your rituals, that's mainly what you're doing. You're using it like a calendar, like a magic calendar.
I did want to, make that a point as well. Like, just because, these phases in general correspond to these general moon cycles. Of course, your vaginal cycle might be a little different. You might be a full moon type of girl, you see what I'm saying, where you menstruate on the full moon.
Right. You may always menstruate on the quarter moon, but that doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter. Just like you said, where does the circle start? Nowhere really. You can just pick a point, but just knowing the alignment of it, you see what I'm saying, understanding when your best time is to do certain things is definitely something to know.
And just like, you're not in sync, your body internally, you still got a full moon going on.
Right.
Internally, you still have a new moon happening. Right. So it may not reflect the outside moon, but you have two calendars you can work on.
You're on your own clock. You're working on your own time. Right.
And I'm glad you said your own, because that, now I want to talk about meditation, visualizations, and tantric techniques. The key to it is to personalize your magic. It's yours. Creativity is literally the only key.
It is the essence of the womb itself, is pure creative essence, yes.
Exactly. Seeing is believing. The all-seeing Yoni merging the third eye and the sacral chakra. So seeing is believing. We've seen that. Daddy Shiva and I have both touched on the double slit experiment and how it's been scientifically proven that what you see, where you give your attention becomes particle. Like that's what turns these waves into particles.
Right.
Seeing
all,
is believing.
All particles, all matter is actually quantum waves until it is observed, and then it collapses into what we see as the physical reality around us. So the minute we stop observing it, it actually stops being matter. You see what I'm saying?
So that's key with any tantric technique, and just any meditation in general. You really wanna visualize everything.
Because what you can't see doesn't matter. As in, what you can't see doesn't become matter.
What you can't see doesn't become matter. Right? So when it comes to tantric techniques, you want to synchronize your breathing with your strokes. If you're solo, you want to synchronize however you're touching yourself with your breath, because your breath is it's going to pass through. It's going to hit the vagus nerve anyways, so it's going to vibrate and you're going to feel it in both. So you want to, it's just a way to better synchronize your body. Right.
Especially since, you know what I'm saying, the throat is intimately connected with, you know what I'm saying, the vagina on that level.
Your throat is a part of your womb.
Right. So getting that breathing together actually gets the whole flow right. All right. Exactly. Fair enough. I see where you are.
You want to synchronize all of that. Another tantric technique that is super potent is sex with deities and planets. So this may sound a little crazy, but you do this with mantras and planetary frequencies. So whether you're solo or you're with a partner, if you're putting on these frequencies and you're having sex, you're gonna tap into that energy. If for new moon, Neptune's perfect because that's the internal, that's the dark waters. Play Neptune's frequency while you're having sex and just visualize yourself going into the darkness. And that's a tantric meditation right there.
Right. You can also, you were mentioning the deities, and like all it takes is the visualization. Once you see it, it's actually matter. You see what I'm saying? So you can actually have sexual intercourse relations with these entities and actually invite them into you.
And when you're having sex with another person, you can become possessed by these deities. You know, you play these mantras, you play Om Namah Shivaya. And
your partner can become Shiva. You see, facts. I see where you're going.
And if you're a solo, if you're practicing the solo, if you have statues or pictures, you know, you put your fluids on it before you start, or even after you finished. You're connecting. You're bringing that statue to life because you just put your creative life forces. And this is for men too, because although the womb does create all of this stuff, it's not going to do any of that without the semen.
Right.
So, you know, man or woman, you put your creative juices, whether they be the clear juices or the blood, you put them on these statues and it brings them to life. That's a form of sex. When you, same thing with planets. All the planets have a deity correlation, so I think it's pretty easy.
Do you need the charger? No?
Yes, I do. So then we have sigils. So Daddy Shiva has an amazing article on the website that breaks down the sigils, but essentially sigils are energetically programmed symbols for the subconscious mind. So when you're doing these meditations, if you have a goal, so if you want abundance, if you want money, you make a sigil for money and abundance and you meditate to it. You put your juices on it. You stare at it and you listen to frequencies. You sleep with it under your pillow. You interact with it a lot more to give it life. But the most potent thing to do with it is put your creative fluids on it. Right? And then you have Yoni gazing, which is staring into the reflection and inducing a trance. So it's basically looking into the black hole until you start to see something, until you enter that oracle phase. So you get a mirror or a camera, whichever. I think cameras are good for recording yourself because then you always have that material to go back and look at for worship. And you scry, you meditate you stare into it until it starts to stare back. And then you have shaving as a ritual. So, as we slightly touched on earlier when we talked about the external genitalia, we slightly said that it's like the veil.
Mm-hmm.
So, the hair.
Right.
The mons pubis.
Pubic hair ends up being
The pubic hair
that
ends
veil
up
of
being-
Isis, and that gets talked about in the mythology.
Exactly. So, shaving is a ritual in its own, and you can make it a part of a larger full moon, new moon ritual. But shaving is essentially removing of the veil so that you can better get and go through the portal to get to the darkness, the creative realm.
Right.
So that is it. That is it on rituals and the Yoni, and hopefully we've touched on everything and went into depth with everything. We have referenced works that we've done. We've also have a lot of citations of a lot of different books and website articles I would love for you to check out and just further investigate on your own.
There's also hella diagrams.
Yeah, if you were following along, there's a lot of diagrams that break down everything that we talked about. The charts simplify everything with the moon phases, yin and yang, menstrual phases, dakinis, everything.
The mandorla and everything's in there.
The mandorla, everything. Yeah. There's also a portion on the website that's going to be for everyone who interacted with this, for you to comment, for you to share experiences, for you to share anything that I haven't touched on. This is your chance to ask questions and just really engage and further your knowledge of womb wisdom, because I personally believe that true knowledge of the womb is vital for the evolution of Black consciousness, or all consciousness, because this is where it starts.
Right.
We're in the physical. No matter how we got here, we're here.
Right.
So that is it for me, unless Daddy Shiva has something.
No, that I think you did a great job on that one. I think you explained that well. I definitely would suggest that all you guys definitely invest in this particular PowerPoint and all that. Definitely put your time and your energy into understanding these things. Like she said, check out those references, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we were able to really come to a lot of deep metaphysical understandings just by really getting that true knowledge on the physical aspects of what the womb is, and being able to see why the ancestors said what they said.
Right, because there's a true biology and a true science to all the mythologies.
To all the mythology, it all corresponds to aspects of us, aspects of our own being that we now have to reawaken and tap back into. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Even just the mut part of it, you see what I'm saying, where the mouth is the uterus. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's a very interesting relationship to draw. You know what I'm saying? When we're talking about the mouth of God speaking things into existence, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The mouth of God. But I was looking a little deeper into the black hole one time, and just, again, the black hole, we are on the outside looking in. So when we're looking at the womb, we see just the external genitalia. Black holes have a single point of singularity. Right. And I like to call that the clit. Right. Because it's a little dot and it literally sparks everything.
Right. And it's actually interesting you say that, because in nature there's no such thing as a naked singularity. You see what I'm saying? The singularity is always shrouded by the event horizon. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So it's even just like, the external vagina is almost shrouding the deeper mysteries of what's going on. You see what I'm saying? The aspects that you can't see. So I definitely fuck with where you're going with that one as well.
Yeah. And all of it is your womb. Please do not walk away with this thinking that the womb is just the uterus or just the vagina. It's a system.
It's the whole complex.
A whole system,
it's the whole,
including your brain, including your throat. And if one part of that entire system is flawed or doesn't work, the whole system can't
shuts
work.
Down, right?
And that's why it's all of it is the womb.
Well, I think another important point to mention, you brought up the pituitary gland a lot, and of course that corresponds to the third eye. But one thing that we need to note in terms of the biological aspect of the pituitary gland is that it pretty much surrounds on a certain level, the pineal,
pineal
gland.
gland.
So you have the pineal, the penis. You see what I'm saying? That cosmic penis.
That's what it looks like. It looks like
that
sex.
is enclosed by the pituitary, this cosmic vagina. So it actually looks like sex going on in your brain.
It looks like what's going on inside the Dakini temples.
Right.
Him in the middle, and the women
surrounding him,
spiraling around. It's another thing, they spiral, and it's another good tantric technique. If you're by yourself, if you're a woman and you're by yourself massaging on a spiral, and I say a spiral as in like change up the pressure, like here, just to get more in tune with the spiral creative energy that you are. And if you're with a partner, you can massage. But yeah, is there anything else?
That I can think of right now. No, I think that's about it. You did an amazing job on that. I feel like this is gonna be a good one. So
I hope so.
One time for my niggas, two times for my nagas.
Head on over to the discussion board if you have any questions or you want to talk about anything else that we haven't touched on. And we'll see you later.